Hey, hello. Welcome to episode number 59 of the People We Love podcast. I am Adam Choi. What's up? If you're new here, what I do is interview people from all walks of life, often comedians and other artists, about their lives and careers. It's casual conversation, but I also ask everyone to highlight someone they love, someone who they admire, who influenced them, inspired them, and supported them. For more, check out peoplewelovepodcast.com. That's peoplewelovepodcast.com. And the Instagram handle is peoplewelovepodcast. And you can find me on Instagram as well, Adam Choi, my name, if you want to follow me too. And remember to tap subscribe or follow on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. And of course, 5-star positive reviews on iTunes are greatly appreciated as well. So, today's guest is comedian and producer Joan O'Toole. Originally from Tampa, Florida, he describes himself as a nerdy kid, but never recalls getting bullied. Maybe it's because for much of his childhood, Ryan took karate, as did his father, Terry O'Toole, at the same time, which was fun for the both of them. And Grandpa, Alfred, Al O'Toole, and Grandma, Joan O'Toole, have also always loved and supported Ryan and been there for him. Loving comedy since he can remember, Ryan's path has led him from Florida to LA, and he's always been proud to call himself an O'Toole. Let's just get into this one. Here's Joan O'Toole. So it's good to see you today, Joan O'Toole.
Hey, man.
Thank you. I'm good. Thank you for having me in your studio.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for dealing with the layout and the high ceilings.
Oh, it's a beautiful studio you have. So how's your day going?
Pretty good, man. How about yourself?
I'm good. What you been up to?
Not much. Just got back from work and grabbed a quart from you for you from the clubhouse to help set this up.
Nice.
A little inside baseball for the fans.
Yeah, I'm getting all my gear together. We're getting things together.
Heck yeah.
We can just get right into it.
Let's do it.
Tell me about your life, and we could start from the hospital when you were born and the drive home. Tell me what you remember from that.
So I was born on an Air Force base. The reasons why are top secret. No, I was born on Air Force Base because my dad was stationed there. I don't remember the drive home, but I do remember that my dad crashed my mom's brand new Mustang on the way to come to see me as I was being born.
So your dad wasn't with your mom at the time.
No,
she was going to labor.
So he was coming to the hospital
to meet her.
To meet her. And he crashed into the back of a school bus.
Wow.
With my mom's brand new Mustang. Apparently the
with
school
her
bus
car.
was at fault. Well, their car, but her car.
Right.
And stuff like that. And so I don't...
Was he okay?
Yeah, he's fine. It was never, in the context of the story as it was told me, it was never empathetic towards him. It was always like, can you believe this happened?
Did he make it there for the birth?
Oh, yeah, I think he made it on time. Yeah.
How did he, you don't even know, but how did he even get there if the car was all...
I guess it was just enough where the car wasn't total or just ruined the front end. I'm sure if he was on or near the base, I'm sure they were able to help him out quickly and he was able to get to the hospital and stuff like that.
Crazy times.
Yeah.
So you were born, and then they took you home, and where do we go from there? And what do you remember? What are your earliest memories from 3, 4, 5? Some people remember shit from 2 years old. I don't know what you remember.
I remember I remember vaguely stuff. I vaguely remember just Bill Clinton on the TV, and stuff like that. So there's something I remember. My first distinct memories are closer to 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But I do have vague flashes before then. The first things that I remember, my first movie and stuff like that, which is Batman and Robin. So that's probably 97 or 98 or whatever. So that's 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And that I didn't handle well. I remember not handling that, seeing a movie well, because of the noise. And then I didn't go back to see a movie again until Phantom Menace.
It was just your sensory overload. And
the sound.
It was scary.
The sound was too much. I had to cover my ears or something like that.
I think I was just afraid of the dark when I first went to the movie.
I'm sure that didn't help. But I do remember that moment of being I remember that looking up moment and stuff like that. And I work with a bunch of cinephiles and who are older and have seen every movie and are know all the great movies. So it's always the weirdest fact that the first 2 movies I ever saw were Batman and Robin and Star Wars Episode 1, 2 critically panned movies.
Yeah.
And that's those are the movies I remember and stuff that.
Well, you got to see what you don't like.
Right, exactly.
Not as great first.
Yeah.
And what about what did you do for fun? What do you remember? 4 or 5 years old. or young age? What were you doing for fun?
That early? I don't remember too much. I mean, like, just like Florida's boring, you know? Like, Florida's really boring. Like, I don't remember, like, just like school. I did like karate after school, you know? Like, that
in
was
elementary school?
Yeah. Like,
were you a sports guy? Were you?
I did karate after school, and then like they also had like an after school program that was involved with it and stuff like that. And so I did that.
How far did you get with?
I made it pretty far. Yeah.
What color was your belt?
I was like a kid. I was like a junior. I was like a kid version of a black belt, or whatever. Yeah, like for however long. Because I did it through like being a teenager and stuff like that.
So you were doing this for like 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
You could kick my ass.
No.
Why can't you kick my ass still? You forgot
because
how
there's
to do
a difference
everything?
between like a child learning like martial arts and then like real fighting. I feel like.
I see. They don't teach you the real stuff,
or like it doesn't matter if you haven't stretched in 10 years. I don't know, like you need like or like doing tournament stuff. Like the stuff I did was also like we like it was like it was a sport. You ever
think about getting back into it?
Sometimes, I would maybe do I would probably do something like kickboxing, like something, or like
different,
something that's more of a workout at the same time, or like wrestling or judo or something like that.
Yeah, that's something I talk about doing all the time is self-defense martial arts. And
that stuff's great.
Yeah, I would love to do it, but I just continue to just talk about it and not do it just because it costs money. I'm busy, so
it's expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, like I worked there, and like our after-school program was expensive. Yeah,
and I feel like it's something that I would need a professional trainer to teach me.
Yeah.
I can't learn how to fight from YouTube.
Self-defense. No,
no,
you have to practice and all that stuff. Yeah, sorry.
So how many belts? So that's like you must have got through 6, 7 different belts. Like,
oh yeah, like there was like white, yellow, orange, green, blue, purple, brown, red and black, and then like a black belt.
Did you feel a sense of accomplishment after getting past each level?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Was it challenging to get past each level?
Yeah, it got challenging at points and stuff like that, like where once they with like a lot of those programs, and I think it's like a lot this too for a lot of like youth, a lot of youth sports where someone's doing it for a long time, is once they're comfortable with you and the parents and they know they can be hard on you,
right?
They will be harder on you. So I do remember like actually starting to fail test. You could test every 3 to 6 months, and then I remember once I got into the longer belts, and I'd been there for like a year, and they were like, my dad also went there, and they were like friends with my dad and stuff like that. He did it too. Yeah.
Were you guys in the same class, or kids? Was it
at first he was, and then once I started doing it, he would do like like the night classes with the adults, and then I would do they did like an after school program where they would pick us up from school, we would do our practice, and then be done by the time parents get off from like work and stuff.
So you guys start at about the same?
Yeah, he started a couple months after me to like help support. And he was there anyways. He used to do it in the military, so I think he just kind of did it there. Yeah, so we got like our black belts together. Yeah, like
that's
we
awesome.
Got like an adult
and his
one.
name is
Terry
O'Toole.
Terry O'Toole.
So he was kind of inspired by you in a sense to do to get started. Well, he saw you doing. He's like, I want to do that. Is that kind of the vibe?
Like single dad, so you don't get a lot of time when you're split between like two parents and stuff like that. So if you're gonna be there with the practices, you might as well do it, at the same time. And and all that kind of stuff. So it was just
did you guys practice at the same time? Like
especially once I got older and stuff like that, we would start to do that a little bit. Yeah, because he was much more practical about it. Because like you said, like a lot of that is just like kids martial arts. Like it's a sport, just like football or basketball. Or honestly, it's a lot like there's a lot, and you would never want to hear it, but there's a lot like it's like dance and cheerleading and stuff like that too, especially tournaments like karate, because it's like performing karate, and then like doing like point sparring, which is like about speed. You're not doing like MMA or
it's not combat.
No, but they do, the good programs they also are like teaching you like self-defense and like some practical stuff like in that then you can glean from and stuff like that. But it's a sport and stuff like that. So it wasn't. It got tougher as you went sometimes, but for the most part,
it makes sense. What other memories do you have of your dad? Throughout elementary school, or when you were a young kid.
I just remember, like he had like a job that was like 2 hours away or something like that, and he would drive like almost 2 hours to and from every day.
Yeah. 2 hours. each way
and stuff like that.
So that's 4 hours in the car.
That's insane. And that's why I had to do this after school program, and it's like it's all kind of like connected. So like I just remember him like hustling his butt off, and stuff like that. Yeah,
you got to do what you got to do, but that's I know a lot of like even I've heard stories about people who work at like the auto plants in Michigan. Yeah, like they would drive, to work 2 hours. Like people have those commutes, they do that. Yeah, I guess if you're making enough money and it's your best option, only
it's an
option,
industry dependent job, and that's where the industry is.
You got to go where the work is. Yeah, I don't want that commute.
No, that seems rough.
No, so what about elementary school and going to school? What kind of student were you?
I was a good student. I was a nerd. Yeah,
you were a nerd.
Yeah, I was.
What does that mean? Straight A's?
Yeah. In elementary school, I was a pretty straight laced and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And big old glasses, eye patch because I had like a blind eye that was fixing just dorky nerd. Like I wasn't like bullied, or anything, like not like nerd in that sense, but just like I was just like a big old dork with big old buck teeth and glasses. And,
besides your appearance, were you?
I just unloaded. Yeah, I was just like some snot nose. I just keep going.
No, but besides your appearance, were you into nerdy things?
Some, I think, like I was into like the average American boy was into at the time, like anime and like cards and video games and sports and all that kind of stuff. And it was geeky. I didn't get too. I was into comic books a little bit, but not too much. I was into cartoons, like that kind of stuff. I like stand up comedy early on.
I feel like people are like. You're just a nerd of whatever you're into.
Yeah.
You like baseball, you're a baseball nerd. You're into comics, you're a comic nerd. You're just a nerd about whatever.
Yeah.
So you were into comedy even as like a kid in elementary school, like that young you were?
Yeah. I mean, like as early as I can remember, I remember just like loving
stand-up comedy.
Yeah. Even if I didn't understand it and stuff like that, I
I've heard
liked
some guests definitely say that. I still loved and laughed, and even though I didn't understand half the things. Who were you watching? Like
just those half hours, the Comedy Central half hours, which I think are like the most like everyone knows about it, but I think they're like the most important like one of the most important comedy shows on TV for like my generation.
Do you remember any comics?
I mean, a bunch. I mean, I remember
just so many. Like they had.
I remember
showcases they kind of had.
Right. Yeah, that was what was cool about it. Is it had this feel of kind of what I think even closer to what stand up actually is, of just like Friday night stand up, and they would show them in I didn't realize like at the time because I was a kid that there was like 2 new ones and a bunch of reruns. They were all new and stuff like that, even if they were like from clearly different years,
right,
and stuff like that. But I remember seeing a lot of comics who I still like now for the first time, like like Maria Bamford stands out. I mean, there's that year that Dane Cook was there's all those years that Dane Cook was the funniest guy. Yeah. I think Tosh had one and stuff like that. I mean, like I just remember a lot. Like, I mean, like Todd Barry, just any comic who had one, just like seeing them for the first. Brian Regan, seeing them for the first time.
Hilarious. Yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah. So Brian Regan was probably one of the first ones because he was like you could get it as a kid, you could understand his jokes as a kid and stuff like that.
He's clean, pretty clean. He's clean also, I think. What about middle school? What kind of were you a student? Were your grades going downhill then?
Not like down, but just like not like straight A's, if that makes sense. Yeah, just like your average, like like knows how to do just enough to stay in honor society, so his parents don't get like mad. Like still wants to do well on tests because I was always a nerd, like especially when it came to like wanting to do well on tests. But then I started to get lazier when it started to just do like once like stuff like doing assignments. Yeah. Like once you could slack off, like you can't really slack off in elementary school.
Yeah,
you can just be like this 4th grader is just ignoring all their work. Yeah, completely. It's much harder. So, but once I got to that point, but I also started doing more. Like I think I got more social.
Did you have thoughts when you were like 10, 11, 12 of what you might be when you grew up? Like what did you imagine? Even if it was just like a kid dream.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, a little bit. Like
what was your kid dreams?
I mean, in middle school, I started learning how to like do like edit videos and like make certain like do a little bit of stuff like involved with like production and video production, media stuff. So I would say like that was like I was into that pretty early on and knew I wanted to do something
in some capacity.
Yeah, like I did, especially in like 7th and 8th grade. I did it like a lot.
Was your dad supportive of these ideas, and what did he think about all that?
Yeah, they've always been pretty good about it. My dad, I think, wanted to do more creative stuff, but he was a military guy. Grew up in
it wasn't his world.
Yeah. So he always, I think, was pretty supportive of that and stuff like that. And I was never, at least at that time, it was like it's always I was in like graphics and editing at the time and stuff like that. And I thought that was really cool. I was just like shooting stupid stuff with our friends in middle school.
Was it you that was kind of spearheading these productions, or was it just you and a couple of friends that just kind of came together?
There was like a pretty big program at our school, and then I was just like a big part of the program.
Right.
But like the weirdly like Polk County, Florida, which is like in between Tampa and Orlando, which is where I lived at the time. Polk County, Florida just randomly has like a lot of a huge media production fund, and it's like middle and high schools. Like it rents out this whole big auditorium and does an award show every year with like all these things that it does like its version of the Emmys, and like we do like music videos, short films, comedy, all that kind of stuff. And that's like it's through the extension of like the middle school morning show. So like the middle school morning shows there had like pre-taped pieces, like reports,
serious high production value stuff.
And that was just very randomly like super big in this one county in Florida. And so I got to do that, and it was like really well fun. Like I went to mostly like not great like new school, and it wasn't a new school. It just had like a computer with Final Cut Pro and Adobe Premiere, and
that's all you needed,
and learn all that stuff. And we had cameras and a green screen, and messed around with some editing and all that kind of stuff. It was actually like just really, and had reasons to compete and do stuff. So it was cool.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. What about your grandparents? Tell me about them, and like what was their role in your life?
They're just super funny. I don't know. Al and
Joan.
Al and Joan. They're not funny. They're just like, maybe they're just more like, they're just like smart and wise and humorous in a way that I think helped shape me a lot. And my grandma used to always buy me books, and that was like her one, like almost like a first lady will just like pick one thing for an administration and be like, I'm gonna make a big difference in this, that
was her focus. I'm buying books,
and she's like, all right, I can't do much with this stupid kid or whatever. However she talked about me, but she's like, I'm gonna like make sure that he has a book. I don't care if it is like a Harry Potter or a series of unfortunate events, or I can get him to read other stuff. But she just like would send me books, and I think that was super important because a lot of that stuff ended up being how I would read like fantasy novels, comic books, and like educational stuff.
She sent you lots of different kind of things.
Yeah, she just like would send me a book when I was done, and then just like when I finished it, she would like kind of like I probably got a couple books a year from her, like, and she would like kind of make me come back and like tell her about it.
She gave you, made you do a book report.
Not even like it never felt like a book report because she would always, it was always like letting me read the stuff I wanted to read. Like if it was like Star Wars expanded universe stuff,
I see. So she got you books that you were interested in.
Yeah, fantasy stuff, and I think she thought like if I did that, I would like it more and do it more in school anyways. Cause that's just being assigned to me, and I think she was right. Or have a better like appreciate, because that's the stuff that I got into like creative storytelling and stuff like that, which I think fueled even though it wasn't through comedy, I think that fueled like the fact that I like just like all like I got into comic books, all the big things that everyone gets into, and all the fantasy novels and mystery novels, teen novels, all that kind of stuff.
When did this tradition, I guess, start? And
I like 8 or 9, yeah,
and then went on for
just like kept going, and then like she passed away a little bit after.
So she passed away. And what about your grandfather?
Grandfather is still alive, and he lives with my dad. So that's why my relationship with him is closer. I got closer to him recently, like since like when I go back and visit, hanging out with him and stuff like that. And he's just just like funny, and like he's teaching me how to like fix a car, like he kind of gives like the other side where he's just like I got like drunk with him on New Year's, just like a kind of like tell old war story, like a different type of just like listen to him talk type stuff. Whereas like, my grandma was the one who got like kind of like helped get me talking and that, like learning how to express myself and stuff like that. So there was a good yin and yang that they both kind of
it sounds like he was telling stories about himself and sharing his experiences, maybe more than maybe your grandmother was more like helping develop you,
right?
So
exactly. Yeah. And then because they came at certain different times where I kind of maybe needed that more and stuff like that, like his stories wouldn't have meant anything at 8, 9 teenager and stuff like that now, but now as a young man they mean a lot more to me because it's much more relatable.
I think about a lot of things my parents or grandparents said and stories they told me that just I completely forgot or don't think about, that seem to be coming up more and more,
and you're like, oh crap,
relevant lessons and those kinds of things. So your grandfather was in the military also?
Yeah, it's a big military family, and then most of the women in the family went to college and then worked either at colleges or also did like finance or accounting and stuff like that. So most of the women went to the college before my generation, and then like the men always did the military for the most part. And then since my generation, that's obviously like kind of now like diversified, and everyone does it. You know, we have all everyone.
Yeah, it seems like you come from a family that's, I guess, fairly structured and like sort of. I don't know what the word is, but like, what do they think about you going to all these creative? Like you mentioned that that your dad has always been supportive, but like you're in Hollywood and now and doing film and comedy and all these things, media. Do they think you're the black sheep of the family because you're not structured? That's the word.
No.
They or maybe more into a different kind of a structure, life structure.
No, I mean my dad's. I think me and my dad have a theory that he's the black sheep of the family. So because of that, I'm the golden boy. Because you know what I'm saying? Like he's paranoid that he's the black sheep of the family.
Why? What makes him the black sheep?
He's the middle son, and I don't know. He has like a that's just like I think it's a big like brother and sister family, and it's like the structure was like up through his generation, and then like after his generation, like once my generation came in, now we like were more like modern, and all of these kids had kids and cousins and all that kind of stuff. So that structure kind of fell apart. So there's all this old family drama that then like doesn't really come into play. So like when you're just the guy who like is carrying on the name, like you're just like the only O'Toole, like and stuff like that left.
So your family's not as big a military family as it used to be.
No, it's like culturally, but not practically anymore.
More people are doing other things. Okay. And what about high school? What were you into then? What was high school like?
High school,
were you? Tell me about that.
High school is then I moved counties, and then like it was literally the county right next to Polk County in Florida. And I'm closer to back to Tampa area, and I was with my mom now. But like even though it was the same region of the state, but just one county over, they had no funding in like media broadcasting at all. So I actually transferred over, went there, and they had like stuff that was like, from the 80s, like old gear. And I did it for a year, but then I ended up getting into theater because they had a better theater district out there and did like more acting stuff. And that's where I met my friend Mitri, who I still live with and stuff like that. We did some plays together and did. So I ended up doing like plays and live performance, which I actually like still really like.
That's cool. You sounds like you're like almost flexible. Were you disappointed though when you got to this new school and you realized, I've been so into this media and editing and that they didn't have it?
Yeah, for sure.
Were you pissed off?
I guess, yeah. I mean, like,
were you like, I don't want to live here? Or is there
right?
Any of that going on, or
I'm sure I was, but probably just for all the teenage reasons plus that. But it never like stood out as that being like the most predominant reason,
right.
Because it was at least like it was chill, and I got to do it as a freshman, and it was like one of those things where like I was just the only person in the room, like there. It was the exact opposite where it was just like, a vacant closet and like, you can be in here if you want, basically, so it was at least like not stressful. Yeah. But it was disappointing. But then, I was able to move on pretty quickly and do something else.
Yeah. Tell me more about theater, the theater experience, the acting. Was that your first time ever doing any sort of acting, performing in that
any live stuff? I mean, like we acted in like our videos and stuff like that, and then we did the at the desk stuff. But that was the first time doing like
audience,
like big bigger audiences like that, and then doing like just the idea of live production and stuff. And then since now I do produce live comedy, I like live a lot. And actually, at my job, the show I do is a live stream, even though it's an internet show, it's still live. So I actually really like how the process of doing live stuff.
Sure.
And so I think that I first got that bug from doing the theater and stuff like that.
Was that instantaneous then when you first started performing like on stage that you loved that?
Yeah, especially because in high school theater you can kind of like if you're a guy and you're into it, you can get into it really quickly. There's like a lot of programs were like didn't have a lot of people, and so if you're like getting into it early on, you can get in plays, get parts, even if it's just background parts. They need just like people,
bodies,
need bodies, so you can get involved quickly.
What plays do you recall doing, or were you?
I did a bunch of good ones. I did a Mice and Men, which is not a cheery one, but that was the first play I got casted in. I did a lot of like competition theater, which you do in high school, so a lot of just like scenes from random plays at competitions and stuff like that. I did the big one I did was Grease, and that's the one that it's like that was the one that was like the senior high school big play and stuff like that. No, but by default, like I had to play the lead. I was the only senior guy, and then there was another guy who was my friend who was junior. It was a junior, and we were both like average singers, so I got it. Had to play it by default.
So you did sing.
Yeah. I was Danny. I was the lead.
But you're a competent singer.
Yeah, I mean, I could carry a tune in a high school theater.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that means something.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a good
than
time.
I could do.
My girlfriend at like my high school sweetheart was Sandy, and so that was weird. That was awkward.
Why? If you guys.
I don't know. It was just like you spend. I mean, in high school it's fine because you're just like just spend all the time with each other anyways, and you just do it and stuff like that. But looking back, it was just like I don't know. I feel like that's a lot. That's a lot.
So you had to dance too?
Yeah, but like 50s dude dancing, so not really.
Yeah.
Like it was pretty simple. It was pretty simple.
And you were comfortable singing, you were comfortable dancing, you were comfortable acting in front of everyone in high school?
Yeah.
Where does that come from? That sort of, I don't care what people think about me, or I'm not going to get stage fright. Where does that I
mean, it's probably more in the camp, I think, of a lot of performers of I probably overcare what people think about me when I'm not performing at first. The self-consciousness as a kid and teenager that then you want to take control. And that's where a lot of people end up performing. And I think that's definitely at first what got me into performing. It's for a self-conscious, teen or kid, the same thing that a daredevil, does.
I could follow that for sure. It's because it sounds like maybe you were party was maybe nervous about performing. Maybe you were not worried, but you thought about what other people would think of you. But once you were out on that stage, you knew that it's worth it. I'm in my element. I'm not thinking about what people are thinking about me. I'm just doing my things. That kind of how
and
out.
And you get feedback, you find out. And I think sometimes with self-conscious, people that drives them into performing. Every kid and teen is self-conscious. You know what I'm saying? It's just I think the average anxiety and self-conscious that you face as a kid and teen.
Yeah.
But what I think drives people there to it is that you get the feedback. If you bomb, and I think that's still with comedy now. Bombing is worse than doing kind of, or bombing's better than doing if that makes sense, almost, because you get all right, I know that was bad, and then I can fix it, or
right.
And I think sometimes it's with a lot of self-conscious people, it's more in their head. It's in the margins that they can get lost and overthink stuff. So that then when you perform and then people are just boo, nerd, you're just all right, well, now I know, and it's all of a sudden, it's not anxious, I'm fine with being a dork or a nerd, but the being anxious about if I'm a dork or a nerd is the problem, and then when you're just doing something proactively,
right. It's making me think of when I see comedians sometimes and they'll have a nervous energy, but some comedians that will be part of their act. That's their character. Yeah. That's who they are.
Yeah.
They're okay, I'm the nervous energy comedian.
Yeah,
That's cool. That's funny.
Right.
I'm comfortable with you. You're comfortable with your being nervous. I'm comfortable with your being nervous. But it's people obviously who, comedians, sometimes you'll see people maybe not as experienced. They'll be nervous, but they're not trying to be nervous. And then you're making me nervous.
Right. Yeah.
So just either be the nervous person
or this elephant in the room where you can just see through it. Yeah.
For sure. So you're acting in high school. You're probably an okay student.
Yeah, I was okay, but it was the same where I was I cared about being right and being smart, and I liked learning, but I was starting to show signs, I think, of laziness and inability to do tasks that then showed up in college when I didn't do well in college.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so where do we go from here? What did you plan on doing after high school? What were you thinking about? It sounds like you went to college. So what were you
I went
majoring? What do you want
I went
to
to college out in Orlando for broadcasting originally, and then I switched over pretty quickly to creative writing because I guess that's the one more antiquated major I could get.
Yeah.
I had to move from technology to the pen and paper and stuff like that because I just never want to make money. That's because I hate it.
It's just a major.
Right. Yeah.
If everyone's major determined, how much money. Sometimes it does, but plenty of people pick useless majors but end up having careers.
I wanted I was
pay them.
Right. Yeah. I was supposed to maybe do a more math related major. I was good at math in high school. In calculus and stuff like that. I was able to do that in high school, but so I could have done maybe something that was more computer science or engineering based, but I had no interest in doing it. That's what my dad did, but I didn't have any interest in doing it. So it was never really on the table for me. And so I just kind of like picked something by default. And
so you got into creative writing. And what about, where were we with like acting and theater and
I got into comedy once I got into college, like within a month of being in college, I like got into like long form improv and doing like comedy sketch and stuff again. And that's when I kind of focused in. I was like, oh, I know I want to like do comedy, not just like vague broadcasting. And then I switched over to creative writing once I started doing like stand up and stuff.
What led you to so quickly after just a month into college, you said?
Yeah, I mean, like I just
getting into comedy, improv. Did you just sign up, or you saw
I went to a random audition group for an improv group for a class assignment that was just like for an intro to college class. I was like, just go to a club and report on it. And I was like, oh, comedy, something, like I'll go see that. And then I got into it. I went to this audition there, auditioned for this troupe that they had at the college. And me and some other people got in that we met at the audition, including some people who we live out here with now and like we do stuff with. We're just at that audition, and it was just like 3 weeks into being in college. And then some of the people who I like perform and live out with here now.
That's how it all happens. One thing leads to the next. So you had a college assignment that said go to a comedy club and basically do a report about it?
Yeah, it was like an English class, and it was
that's awesome. All assignments should be that.
Yeah, because they were like teaching you how to like do like they wanted us to learn how to do like go to a place and be at it for a while and report on it, like long form reporting almost, kind of like writing type.
Like journalism?
Almost kind of like journalism, but like journalism in a way that's that would be more of your like, I go in depth somewhere, where it's like I'm not trying to uncover the news, but like from a more storytelling perspective, like almost like a magazine
expose.
Feature.
Is that the right word?
Maybe that's closer to it.
I don't know.
I like that. Yeah, I'm smoking a cigar the whole time. That's great. So I did that, and then I got a C on the assignment.
What the fuck? Why are you happy? Why are you happy with that? Or is that
I think it's just very funny that the thing that got me into like my passion, I got a C on. Yeah. When you look back on it.
C for comedy.
yeah. It's like, you bet your whole life on this idiot. But I got into like a thing there, and like I met friends there, and then we started doing stuff on our own outside of this like school troupe. And then this school troupe like ended within that year, but then we formed our own by the end of the year.
Nice.
And that's like what became this group that you met some of the people out of and stuff that we all live out here now.
For sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So I feel like we just covered a lot.
We covered a lot.
What were your junior, senior years like at college? And
well, by junior, senior year, I was already saving up and just doing some community college courses before moving out here.
You already had plans to move to Los Angeles.
Because I was like, I didn't connect with college. Once I got into comedy, I was producing comedy shows out in Orlando a lot and just doing stuff. I was working a job and doing some stuff on the side. Some community, like the last semester I did at the community college near East, like our state college, because I didn't want to pay the full tuition.
Did you finish school?
No.
So you never finished school?
No.
What did your dad and your family think of like your, putting your focus and energies towards comedy and producing comedy and that whole world and kind of getting away from?
I'm sure that's not what they wanted, but I think they also knew that the idea of like what a creative writing degree would mean anyways,
right.
like of stuff to it, like they also understood already at college that I was pursuing something that wasn't
contingent on having a piece of paper.
Right. Yeah. It's not like I dropped out of like medical school or dropped out of engineering school.
You were going towards something.
Yeah. I was just kind of like taking an opportunity because it was like an opportunity to move out here early, quickly, which is what I wanted to do.
Was that something when did that thought, that's a thought you had in college where you're like, okay, LA, that's when you first had, not before college. You weren't.
No.
What is your dad thinking, your family thinking about you just, actually just physically, geographically moving to Los Angeles, 2,800, 3,000 miles away? Was that like, holy shit, what you're...
I'm sure it was to them. I'm sure they did their best to hide it, like it was... I was pretty independent and stuff like that. I moved out at 17 and stuff like that. I had a good relationship with both parents. And then like I worked, I had like a good enough job and saved up. So it wasn't like I was like, hey, can I borrow money to go do this, or something like that. It was more like, hey, here's the plan,
Look at you, man. You fucking take control of your life, man. Good work.
Try to. There's plenty of times that I didn't, but I just had the right.
In this case, you did.
Stars were aligning where I had a good enough job that I could get like temporarily, it was like the equivalent of like a good year-long freelance gig out there that I took. And I did that, didn't do school, saved up, and took my opportunity. I wanted to get out here early because I knew it would just take a long time to figure it out.
Yeah. And what about when you first got to LA? Tell me about when you first landed.
Me and my dad drove out here and he dropped me off. Basically, he drove out with me. And then we had a friend of ours who was, one of our best buds and did the comedy stuff, who had already moved out here for about 6 months. He was like the first or second of our group, and I was the third of like this big, Orlando exodus that started to come out. And so I moved into an apartment with a bud already, which was super helpful.
To rewind a second, what about the drive with your dad cross country? I'm guessing that's the only time you ever or drove cross country with him?
No, we've driven cross country a couple times.
Really?
Yeah, because he used to work in North California, and so we did the drive from San Francisco to Florida one time.
Okay, wow.
And we drove around. You drive a lot in Florida, like a lot of interstate driving.
Right.
So like a drive to like 2-3 hours here. Yeah, we drove.
So you've spent countless hours in the car with your dad.
I drove a lot. Yeah,
and you drove too.
Yeah, we were comfortable with it. Yeah.
Yeah. What are those drives like? Do you guys listen to music? Or
yeah, it was great. Just listen to music. I showed him a lot of like bands. I think I remember just like a lot of stuff that I had just like gotten into in college that we hadn't caught up on and stuff like that. Like I saw him plenty when I was in college because I only lived like 2-3 hours away, so I was able to see him like once a month.
Yeah,
so it wasn't that distant yet. But
what kind of music was he
he showed me a lot of his old stuff, and then I was just showing him like insert all the college bands you get into. Like I remember he like really liked Cake. Like Cake, he latched onto. So I was like, all right, I want to show him all of Cake and stuff like that. So that because that's like a good dad band. And it worked out perfect.
He's probably more into what I'm into, classic rock and all music from 1979 and earlier.
But he likes prog. Like he loves Rush. Yeah. So like if you like classic prog rock, and that's like you're open to, I think, some of the newer type of sounds because you were already kind of into like progressive music beforehand. Like I think like the stuff. Even if it's not quite like his sound or something like that.
Everything comes from something.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything comes from something.
Yeah.
What about conversations you guys had like on these drives? Did you guys have like long talks or joke around a lot?
I think so. Yeah, I remember just like shooting the shit a lot and just talking. Like we talked about pretty much everything. We're pretty open. I can't remember anything specific. I remember just like almost running out of gas in Texas because there's such a long part, that's just desert and stuff like that. And we had done that a couple of years ago when we did the San Francisco drive, and we like promised ourselves we would never do it again. And then we were like in the desert again, and we were like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like we didn't gas up at the right time, and then like we hit this, 200 miles of desert, and we were like, "Fuck, it's gonna be close." And we were having to like gas up like really late at night at this like right off the interstate in the middle of nowhere, like looking place.
That's always kind of exciting in a twisted way. Like
I remember being like pumped in a scared way of just like where I'm just like, all right, I'll protect dad while he's pumping, like I'll keep an eye out, I'm
like,
just saying,
I'm just talking about the running out of gas thing. It's like even me, like I don't like to run out of gas. I don't want to. I'm not somebody who goes down to the needle on the E being lit up warning for miles and miles.
Yeah.
But when you're there, it's like it's kind of exciting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's some too. It's just like, all right, we got to get through this.
Yeah, it's like a controlled thrill that you can. It's a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in LA and you have a friend here back from Florida, and how are things going? What are we up to at that point?
We did improv. He did a lot. We all did improv and sketch together, and we all like met through improv. But then we all started to specialize in our own different comedy stuff. As we all figured out what we like to do more. I did a little like lean more towards like stand up and producing and hosting and stuff like that. But the guy I moved in with, Cody Schmidt, we did a lot of improv when we first moved out there. And so we did a lot of stuff. We did the kind of gambit of UCBs, your IOs when it was still around. We did some stuff from some people who did the Annoyance Theater in Chicago, like learning different styles of improv and
just dove in.
Yeah. And then because we knew like we were in the improv community, that was when the Clubhouse was not as known in the scene quite
comedy venue in Hollywood.
The comedy venue, the Clubhouse was still mostly for the most part improv community and still is, but like was really connected to that. It was like I was almost a indie minor league to UCB almost kind of. But my roommate had an improv show there, and so we were able to like get on the list early, and we waited our time to get a show slot, and that's what it ended up being, like the stand-up and sketch show that I still run, Group Shower, and we founded that pretty quickly. So we got lucky that through like our improv, the fact that I did improv community stuff really early on, I was able to get this show at this venue when there was only a few stand-up and like variety shows there, and now there's a lot more and stuff like that. But then we were able to get this really cool slot that we still do 4 years later.
What are you more passionate about, improv or stand-up?
Those stand up for sure. Yeah. I mean, improv definitely out of like the big three of stand up, sketch, improv is like improv faded is like I do it for like fun every once in a while and stuff like that. Yeah.
It seems like improv, I mean, is maybe more of like to develop develop acting chops and skills and things like that. What I mean is there an end game with improv specifically?
I think so. I think like if especially like I think if you're into acting and stuff like that, it's like essential
acting skills
and stuff like that. I think there's because of like improv is like perpendicularly useful for so much, but like the path itself isn't to a lot of money unless you teach or you act and get into stuff. But yeah, so that's where I think the development part is. There's like a certain level where like you can get the ideas that can help you with that stuff, and then you either gotta stop there and focus on your acting, or if you're gonna become like great like at improv, like when you see some like the best improv, if you really want to hit that next tier of like, you're so good at this that you should be like constantly paid to do this. Your Heather Ann Campbell's, your Cook County Social Clubs, all that kind of stuff. Your Chicago, your like Chicago Heyday people, your best UCB teams. Like that, and then you really have to dig in and treat it like stand up, where you're practicing every day, doing it, grinding. So I think there's this wide gulf in the middle that stand up and sketch has a more like linear like level of getting it progressively into it. Whereas I think with improv, there's all of a sudden this hit where like, all right, either you're in it or you've got it. And if you want to get really good at it, which I really respect, and I still love watching that, like you have to dig in and be in shape and treat it like stand up or writing or anything else. Right.
For most people who take on improv, it's a fun thing and it's a developmental thing performance wise. But for a few, it's like they will go and become fucking superstar improv people.
Yeah, there's
putting their heavy focus on it.
Yeah, there's like these decision points in improv where it's like, all right, like, are you going to go in harder or out? Where I feel like with stand up and sketch, you don't have those like forks in the road as much. You can kind of just like not do it as much or not engage or not be doing proactive stuff. But with improv, especially because you have to be doing classes and then you have to be getting into a community, an indie community and a theater or something like that. Like it's a lot. It's hard. It's hard.
What about okay? So you're doing the improv, and where do we go? Where do we go from there?
Once we got the show, Group Shower,
that's right.
And started focusing a lot more on stand up and sketch and producing again because I love running shows. I love hosting and producing shows. I loved running a bunch in Orlando, so I started doing that more and more. Once we got Group Shower out here in LA, just doing that. And focusing on making that show good and having fun with that. And then, just working as a PA and baristas and all sorts of jobs.
What about your stand-up journey, like doing stand-up comedy? What do you recall from like when you first tried stand-up comedy to where you got with it and where you're going with it?
I mean, I remember doing stand-up comedy in college and that was a lot of fun because you could do a lot. You could get in front of a lot of people. I mean, like I got to perform in a lot in front of a lot more people, a lot more often in my first 2 years when I was no good than I have in the last like 4 or 5 years, funny. Which is something to that. And that's the choice you make when you move to a city versus, like moving up in like a regional, like comic type thing, because you can make money and be a professional stand-up comedian. And so that much quicker down there and, or you can kind of take this route if there's other routes you want to go with it. And so you kind of have to make that decision at a certain point once you're a couple of years into like the local scenes and stuff like that. There's so many great comics who stay. There's so many great comics who stay and do that route and stuff like that. But I knew in college that I wanted to do this thing. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So how many minutes can you do?
I mean, I could feature, which is like, I could open and do a half hour, 25 minutes to a half hour.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is that hard? That's hard to build up to?
I think it's like because you build up to it and then you immediately want to then like rewrite the whole thing and make it stronger. So it's like kind of like you like break down a sandcastle, then build a better sandcastle. So it's like I've never gone past doing like trying to put together more than a feature set because I've only featured, rarely, not often, and I don't do it frequently.
Like a 20 to 30 minute kind
of
set.
Yeah. Opening, and stuff like that. I love 15. Like, I mean, like just in the city doing showcase comics. I mean, I love doing 10 to 15 minutes. Sure. I mean, 15 is amazing and stuff like that when you could rarely do that. We got to do that a lot more back in Florida and stuff like that. There's been a couple of times I did like 30 or 40 minutes, but not. I think the most I've been paid to do is about 30.
I got
30
you.
35.
And what do you? How's Dad doing these days?
Dad's doing good.
And Grandpa?
Yeah, they're getting at each other's throats. They're living together and stuff
They actually
like that.
live in the same...
Yeah. My grandpa lives, but my dad has like a big enough,
I was going to...
like...
Grandpa's got his own wing.
Yeah, he's got his own little area and stuff like that. Once you're not having to pay like child support and stuff like that, you can a lot of possibilities open up for you and stuff like that. My grandpa, helps and stuff like that, like because he does not have money just from being a retired person, and stuff like that. So they have like a little ecosystem there.
Do they visit you in California? Do they come
No. I'd go visit them.
Them. Makes sense. They're there. There's two of them there. Right. And only one of you here.
Yeah, and it's hard for him to travel and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Grandpa.
I mean, they got good weather there. They're not grown.
And I don't get to go home. So when I go home, I got moms and that side of the family too. And then I don't get to go home I don't get to go back to Orlando to do comedy as much as I would like to, as in like not really at all in the last couple of years. So that sucks too. What
would you say is like your dream, goal, end game? As far as we can talk about specific areas of your career, where whether it may, either stand up or producing. Where do you see yourself in 5, 10, 15 years, whatever the case may be? What would be the ideal?
I'd like to be. I mean, I want to be known as a comedian and producer in that order, kind of probably. But I also I've been more in the practical kind of mindset lately, so I've been focused on just like how am I going to make money so that I can. My dream is to do stand up. I want to be really, really. I want to be a great stand up. Like I want to be great at it. Like I want to do it, and when people see me do it, they're like, "Oh, that was great."
Yeah. Is that basically as far as the thought gets? Just be great, or is it like I want to tour the country? I want to have an album. I want to have a Netflix. But
I think those things come with that
being great.
Yeah, and that's like where my focus is. I had all that like before I moved out here. Like I'm going to do the set by this age, and then now that I'm kind of hitting this like where if I get to my head about that, all of a sudden I'll be that no one wants to be that 26, 27-year-old who's like, I thought I'd be this now and I'm not, and I'm a failure, and they're like, shut up, you're young. I'm
learning all that. I'm significantly older than you, and I have dealt with and I'm still dealing with a lot of those
so I'm trying to
thoughts and insecurities.
So I'm trying to appreciate that, and I have like a decent job right now, and I'd like to have a career, especially because I'd like to be a stand-up of someone who's lived a life. And as someone who started comedy and performance so early, I didn't want to be a performer trying to be a person. I want to be a person trying to be a performer, So I like production and producing, and that's also its own whole monster. That's like a challenge and stuff like that. So
what would be like a longer term goal on the producing? So what would you want to produce? Someone else's like comedy special? Like what kind of shows?
Or with a friend or something of my own, or other people's. I think there's different mindsets. Like I actually like, like it's taboo, but like a lot of jobs we have to do branded stuff, and I think there's something fun to doing like commercials, like where I have no heart attachment to it. I could like produce from a full craft, job
I get what you're
standpoint.
saying. It's sometimes good to be given parameters.
Yeah, so there's a part of me that's like, and just because I'm trying to think practically, I'm trying to think like, how can I survive 20 years in this city with all these failing industries? I work for, media companies and stuff like that. And like, so I'm like, oh, I would love to like make and, produce a Super Bowl commercial, like that'd be cool, or something like that. So I think I have practical routes. I mean, I want to do stuff so that I can make money and be like a real adult in this city, so that I could do stand up in a long-term way, so that yes, down the road it's to have a fan base, to be able to tour, to be able to do the bigger venues here, and catch that win at the same time. And I think my best bet to make any decent type of living is to tread that line and try to do as much of both as possible, and be patient with the stand-up part, because it's taken away from my stand-up the last 2 years. And I hit the ground really like a lot harder the first 3 years out here, and then producing my own shows and producing at work has absolutely taken away from my personal stand-up, but that was the plan of coming out here so early, was that I had time to be patient with that, because stand-up industry is so hard and not something that if I get into it, I feel like it'll tear me up if I get into it where my life hinges on it.
Right.
So I want to be as proactive and as strong going into it with experience and smart as I do it more and more, and feel like I don't need to push the foot on the pedal of that stuff, because it'll tear me apart if I don't, and when I just want to be like sense. Great, like I want to listen to something that I did and be like, oh, that's close to like the stuff that I listened to when I first started that I loved, and like once I get there, then I'll be like, now what do I do with it?
That's kind of like a question I ask myself creatively. It's like, oh, if I didn't know me, would I like this podcast? If I didn't know me and I was reading something I wrote, would I like that? And that's like a decent litmus test that kind of like gets you, a little bit outside of yourself. And I feel like it's, we're all trying to do the same thing in the sense of balancing, short-term goals.
Yeah.
And focusing on short-term needs, paying our rent, food
exactly.
on the table, versus also our long-term goals. Because we, giving myself a little pep talk too, like, when you move here, it's easy to lose sight of why you moved here or what your dreams are, your passions are, and get caught up in that day job or get caught up in other distractions. Not distractions, but just not being able to focus on your long-term things and what you're truly passionate about it. But it sounds like you got a good balance.
Well, I mean, it's been too far in one direction, but I think I've just been doing a good job telling myself that's okay because
you're conscious of it.
There's a long-term plan, and I was conscious of like, I'm doing less of this and focus like the whole time. It wasn't like, what do you mean I haven't been as grinding as much as I should, and stuff like that. Then like I know that, and then I'm not like sending myself out for gigs if I'm not in shape to do gigs and all this. I'm not hustling for feature gigs or anything like that. I'm not hustling for spots until I'm ready. I'm producing my shows and doing spots and just working my craft, and I can do that because I have a decent enough stuff to do during the day to work on and stuff, which is like, I'm just trying to be fortunate of that. Media jobs last for their little thing and then they can end quickly and stuff like that. So just trying to appreciate that while I have it, because there's a good, after doing a couple of years of just doing mics and being a barista, there's a good chance that I might have to do that again one day, and I'm trying to be prepared for that.
Yeah. No, you're making sense to me. For sure. Is there anything else you want to talk about or cover that we didn't cover? Otherwise, feel free to plug upcoming shows, tell people what you're working on and how they can find you. But I'll give you the floor. Yeah,
I mean, like nothing much else to cover, man. It's been nice talking to you.
I appreciate the time.
You had some shows around and stuff like that.
Of course.
Nice to get to know you. You're very, very fun to talk to.
Oh, thanks, man. You too. Thanks, man. I
listened to the Sean episode. It was a great
Hyatt,
episode.
Of course,
Shout out to
your buddy,
to the boy, Sean Hyatt. So promos. I mean, like follow at Group Shower. That's me and my buds. We do a show together, and then we're also we're doing stuff. We're making stuff randomly, videos. So we might do a podcast or something, but we want to make random stuff when we promote the show.
Shows and content are there.
Yeah, exactly. So just follow us and all that kind of stuff.
At Group Shower?
At Group Shower on Instagram, at Group Shower Show on Twitter and stuff like that. Yeah, but Group Shower, the comedy show.
Yeah, I'm almost surprised Group Shower is available, so that seems like something.
That's why I was debating just making a Group Shower show on Instagram, but the fact that Group Shower was available, I'm like, fuck it, I'll take it.
Yeah, look at you guys, you're fucking official.
Trying.
That's cool.
So follow those, and then if you like movies or entertainment or not, I produce a daily morning entertainment show for Screen Junkies and Fandom called Screen Junkies Universe. You can see that at Screen Junkies U. We do it live with 2,000 fans in a chat every day, and then it goes out on YouTube for the rest of the day. It's basically a video podcast, nice. And stuff like that. And they talk about movie news, but we're all a lot of comics, and so it's very silly. We don't take it too seriously. We do games. We don't try to cover movie news in an obsessive way. It's a really, really fun show, especially if you know Honest Trailers. It's the people behind Honest Trailers, just talking about movies and entertainment news and stuff all day. And I like that show a lot. I have a lot of fun doing it. And if you want to check it out, let me know what you think.
Sounds fun. What about you on social media?
At Ryan O'True, RyanOHTRUE. It sounds like my name, but
cool.
It's not.
I think we covered it all.
We covered it all.
Well, I appreciate your time again. Thank you. And I'll see you at shows, and we'll hang again soon.
We'll see you around, man.
You got it. So there you have it. My conversation with Ryan O'Toole. Next time I see him, I might have to ask him to show me some karate stances and moves. For real, though, I thank Ryan for his time, and I really enjoyed hearing more about Terry, Al, and Joan O'Toole. Anyway, for everything about this show, of course, head to peoplewelovepodcast.com, and I think that's about all I got for today. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it, of course, and let's talk soon. Peace.